Alright, hello. Welcome to my critique for BioShock Infinite. I call it a critique precisely because I'm going to be critiquing it. Usually I do discussions on this channel where I discuss themes, characters, story, and then on the side I usually provide some critical analysis of different works. Um, in this case, however, I want to keep this video short. I think you can find a variety of things that already cover BioShock Infinite, from articles on the internet to other videos like this one. So I don't think there's any real reason to harp, or excuse me, to dwell on those points any longer than I need to, because that's not really the point of this video. Uh, that said, I will discuss briefly the themes of BioShock Infinite as we go along. I mean, they kind of filter in. They're they're integral to the game. So discussing BioShock Infinite without discussing its themes and characters and story, it doesn't work. You end up talking about those things anyway. But I just want to say that my purpose is to critique the game, and in that sense, it's going to be a critical analysis. Emphasis on the critical. Uh, I'm not interested in tearing the game down. I'm not interested in changing anyone's opinion. These are my personal thoughts. That said, this won't necessarily be very glowing about the game. I'll talk about the things I do like, but there are things, big things in my opinion, that hurt the game, or that I think aren't executed very well, that I want to address. And again, they're just my personal thoughts. You can find a number of videos on YouTube that discuss the same exact things, and everybody has different problems with BioShock Infinite, ranging from the gameplay to the story, etc. I'm going to cover a little bit of both. So the big thing is obviously the story, but I want to discuss gameplay first, which is one of the things that I was kind of disappointed in regards to BioShock Infinite with almost immediately, is that it's very different. I want to I should preface this by saying that I played BioShock Infinite back in June. So it was a few months after it released. So it had already been simmering. People had already played it, already experienced it. I was a late adopter. So what I had done prior to that is I had purchased the BioShock Ultimate Rapture Edition, which had the first game, second game. I'd played the first game previously, but I never played the second one. So this is a good opportunity to acquire the game and get the DLC for it. I played BioShock 2, and I went in there with no expectations about it. I hadn't heard any good things, but then, well, besides from the gameplay, but as far as story goes, I'd heard that it was just contrived, that it was very derivative of the original BioShock. Well, duh, I mean, obviously, right? But I went in there with no expectations, and I came out of it thinking BioShock 2 was excellent. If you look at it as an addendum to the original game, BioShock 2 is it unnecessary? Yes, but is it good? Does it does it take Rapture and the story of BioShock in a new, fresh new direction? Yes. It feels natural coming out the first game, and while it may be unnecessary, when I look back on those two games now, I can't picture the BioShock saga without BioShock 2. It can't be done. You need those two together. I see them as like a single body of work now, and I think they're both better for it. I think they both feed off each other. But anyway, the point is, I thought BioShock 2 was really good. I thought the story was good. I thought the gameplay was an awesome natural evolution of the first games, and it was actually really fun to play. I thought the gathering sequences weren't tedious at all. You know, they started out a little difficult, but as time went on, the game evened out, and the game had so much variety in terms of what you use, in terms of weapons, in terms of plasmids, in terms of tonics, in terms of customization, in terms of gameplay, the Big Sisters, the Gathering, just the normal gameplay. It was just really good. I really enjoyed it. It was incredibly engrossing, and for a game that I went in with no expectations, I was blown away by it. Now, so upon finishing BioShock 2, I was hungry for that same experience. I wanted another game that had that type of engrossing adventure quality to it, with the progression, the story, etc. Everything about BioShock 2 that I really enjoyed, I wanted to have that again, and Infinite was available, and I thought to myself, well, I've heard good things. I've heard good things, particularly about the ending. So I opted to get it, and when I got BioShock Infinite, I started playing it. The first couple of hours, when Booker arrives in Colombia, they're excellent. it's done it's done incredibly well. I think that the trek to the lighthouse and going up the lighthouse and ascending into the clouds, that is just so well done. And when you arrive in Colombia and you're what would you call it? You're in that chamber with the choir music in the background and the stained glass windows and the lighting, the candles. Everything is so atmospheric. Everything is so beautiful to look at. Even when you're arriving in Colombia and you're just kind of sinking through the clouds and you're looking at this floating city and it just looks idyllic. It looks beautiful. It's great. I don't have anything bad to say about the first couple of hours of BioShock Infinite until no, and even then, when you engage in the first fight, when with the skyline and Booker murders, graphically murders, um, one of the one of the soldiers, or the police officers, uh, even I thought that was very good. I thought that was an adrenaline pumping, just excellent way to really drive you into the action and introduce you to the combat mechanics. And there you go, and then it culminates in a fight with the fireman, and like this is cool. This is a shootout. It's adrenaline. It's cool. It's different from BioShock, the original BioShock. I don't think there was ever a shootout like that, particularly like that in the game. But it's fun. It's good. And then you finish that, and you go to the next level, the rooftops, and then you do the same thing. And so that's really where my first criticism of BioShock Infinite's gameplay comes in, which is just that it's a lot of shooting. And I realize I remember I went in here with expectations of BioShock 1 and 2 in particular. I was coming out BioShock 2. I was thinking I wanted that same experience, the same sort of gameplay experience. And BioShock 2 is very much about isolated encounters. You have respawn enemies. You explore kind of a giant hub area with multiple rooms attached to it. That's usually how the gameplay works. And as you go, you encounter enemies, splicers. Excuse me. That pop in and out. They just kind of spawn, and you'll fight maybe 1, 3 at the most. This isn't the case in BioShock Infinite. BioShock Infinite is designed it very linearly. So, as Booker, you travel from one area, you explore some rooms, you go through. There is the illusion of a variety, or in terms of a non being non-linear, as you can explore some rooms around an area, but usually it's very rigid. It's very kind of strictly defined, and you progress from one room to the next, and then you end up in a firefight, and there's a mob of enemies, either policemen or whatever, etc. And you fight them, you clear them out, you proceed, and then you end up with another firefight, and you end up with another firefight and another firefight, and this is so wildly different from the original BioShock and BioShock 2 that when I played it, when I went into BioShock Infinite with these different expectations, I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. I took an adjustment. So in that sense, the way BioShock Infinite is designed, more as a shooter, it's hard. I don't know what to say about it. I don't think it's better off that way. However, it's different, and if you look at it as what it is, as opposed to what it should be or what it could be, it's okay. I think the shooting is done decently, but it has problems with it, and there were different moments in BioShock Infinite. I played on hard mode, just by the way, just to provide some context. So there were moments in the game where I had a lot of fun, where everything kind of gelled together. I was running around the battlefield. Elizabeth was throwing me weapons. I was using the skyline. I was using vigors. Excuse me. Using vigors. I was switching out weapons. I was opening up tears. There were moments when everything was just gelling very well, and the gameplay kind of came to its own, and it was like fully realized. But those were moments were far in between. A lot of the time, I was just kind of shooting, taking cover, and staying in cover, because if I stepped out, I would get shredded. I would get torn apart by bullets. Then, not to mention that you have particular enemies like the handyman, or the fireman, which they're all just so irritating to fight. The motorist patriots provide they're fun. They provide some interesting variety, and usually they don't attack you in conjunction with all these other guys. Usually, not until at least the late game. But then when you have these firemen, you have these handymen, and they're just really obnoxious enemies to fight. They're just very difficult to take down, and they're not fun. It just becomes it becomes tedious, especially if they kill you and then you have to restart the fight, come in, everybody's at half health, but enemies, I forget if enemies respawn or not, but you end up in this kind of like this cycle where that you just keep getting killed because, especially in the early game where you don't have anything to fight with and you have very little health, very little shields, very little ammo, and you get demolished over and over. Now again, that falls on me for being bad at shooters, but the point is that there's a flaw in the design somewhere in there. There definitely is. And on the topic of gameplay, the intricacies are just not there. Everyone brings up the two weapon limit, and I'm going to do so as well because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, realistically, yeah, is Booker going to be carrying all the things that Jack carried in the original BioShock? Uh, a flamethrower, a rocket launcher, a machine gun, a pistol, a wrench? No, he's not. He's not. But at the same time, is it realistic for him to put on pants that will increase that will reduce his cooldown time? Come on, no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I'm not sure what they were going for with this two weapon limit because it just doesn't make sense. In theory, yeah, running around the battlefield, switching out weapons, it's tense, it's exciting, and it forces you to stay on your toes. But it becomes tedious more than anything else, especially with the upgrade system. You buy upgrades, and say I have the pistol, and I buy upgrades for the pistol because I'm using the pistol. But then later on, I lose the pistol, and there goes the money. There go the upgrades until I can get another pistol again. And it does. I mean, that's besides the point that the pistol is, well, a decent weapon isn't any better than the hand cannon, which is a lot better than it. And the hand cannon, and then I then have to upgrade that. So it doesn't make sense, especially when you lose these weapons for an extended period of time, and you're kind of forced to keep them because you want to make use of the upgrades. So as you're hoarding around these two weapons, I had the pistol and the carbine, right? It just doesn't make sense. And then add on top of this, my own folly, which was trying to get the weapon achievements. Oh my God, what awful. Switching out weapons, keeping track of how many enemies you've killed with them. It's just a mess, and it wasn't fun. So by the end of the game, I just said screw it, and I just almost exclusively used the carbine, and I just enjoyed that. I just had fun using that. But this whole two weapon limitation does not help. And maybe on theory, it sounds like it would provide more tension, but I don't think so. I think it falls flat in its face, and it's just more tedious, more aggravating than anything else. Just why not just give Booker 4 fixed weapons: a handgun, a rocket launcher, a sniper rifle, something like that. Not a rocket launcher, a shotgun, handgun, machine gun, sniper maybe, and then just do that, and have the skyline as the melee option, and upgrade those weapons. And I think the game would be a lot better for it. And then yeah, strangely enough, you have access to all of your vigors all at once, and you can hotkey 2 of them. So, but you can access all of them. You don't have to go to, for example, in the original BioShock, you would go to an East Garden, is it called? And then you would have to is it? Yeah. Well, anyway, you would have to go to a station to equip different plasmids and tonics, etc. But in BioShock Infinite, you don't have to. You have them all available, and it just seems kind of strange. Like, if you're going to limit the 2 weapons, why aren't you going to limit the vigors? And I'm assuming maybe it's to balance out the weapons, to give you all the vigors. But it just if you're going to give them all the vigors, why not give you all the weapons? I don't get it. I don't personally get it. It's just stripping away the variety. And on that note, the vigors are all pretty samey. Some of them do different things like charge, and the geyser one, I'm forgetting the name. I'm sorry. But a lot of them are pretty samey. They're all involve projectiles or mines, something like that. Continuing, the gameplay also is just, again, it's just a lot of shooting, a lot of combat. In the original BioShock and BioShock 2, you could sneak around, you could hack things, use them to your benefit, use the environment to your benefit. And in this game, I mean, the skylines just, they don't realize it in the same way. It doesn't feel like you're really using the environment. It just doesn't feel the same, especially when the skylines are so underutilized. And at the most, it's just a loop around the same area. So I don't know, it just doesn't work as well as the original BioShock, and there's just so little variety compared to the original BioShock that you can't help but feel that there's something's been lost here, maybe in the interest of making the game more accessible to a wider audience. And I get that. I totally get that from a financial perspective, from a commercial perspective. I understand it, but I think this game could have been better if not for that. If that was the case, and I think even then it still would have sold well. Anyway, moving on. That's those are my issues with the gameplay. Oh, again, the gameplay is almost exclusively combat, and my issues are with the combat. And don't get me started on the final battle and the ghost fights throughout. Those are particular highlights where you see the flaws in the gameplay, and they stand out all the more. So, moving on. Um, in fact, actually, you know what? I'll stop this video here so we can start a clean slate with the storyline. So if you're interested, please check out the next part where I go into detail about my criticisms of BioShock Infinite's story. Wow, I don't know. I kind of got carried away. But thank you for listening so far. I hope you'll continue.